The cold, wintry silence of Christmas Day enveloped me as I sat on my couch, watching snowflakes swirl against the window. I had prepared myself for a quiet day alone. The text from my mom confirming that everyone was staying home because of the ice storm barely registered at first. After all, it made sense. Nashville winters could be tricky, but what came next, the gut punch, was something I could never have prepared for. My name is Catherine, and until last Christmas, I believed that being the quiet, career-focused daughter in a family full of loud, boisterous personalities was just a phase. I thought I was the one who didn't fit in, the one who didn't quite meet their expectations. But I tried. I worked hard. I loved my family, despite their obvious favoritism toward my younger sister Anna. The free spirit, the perfect one, the one who could do no wrong in their eyes. But everything changed that day, and it all started with an Instagram post. Around 3 p.m., I was scrolling through Instagram, trying to distract myself from the loneliness, when my heart stopped. There it was, fresh photos posted by my cousin from the family Christmas dinner. The caption read, "Perfect family Christmas at Anna's. So blessed to have everyone together. Nard of family traditions, Nasha grateful." The photo showed my entire family gathered around Anna's elegant dining table. My parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone I was supposed to be with. They were all smiling, laughing and enjoying the Christmas dinner I had been told was canceled. I couldn't breathe. Through the windows of their photos, I could see bright, sunny skies. No ice storm. There had been no storm. It was all a lie. I was being deliberately excluded. My hands shook as I scrolled through more photos. My dad carving the turkey, my mom arranging her signature Christmas cookies, my nieces and nephews opening presents. All those moments I had been kept from. All those times I had been lied to. Told events were canceled while they were living their perfect life without me. The sting of betrayal hit me like a wave. The anger, the disbelief. How long had they been doing this? How many times had I been left out without a word, pretending I was the one who didn't fit in? The next morning I received a text from my mom. She acted as though nothing had happened. "Hi, honey. Hope you had a nice, quiet Christmas. We missed you." The casual cruelty of her words made my fists clench. My throat burned with the need to scream, but I stayed calm. I had to. I had always been the good daughter. I worked overtime to help with the mortgage, kept straight A's, even gave up my dream of attending art school to become an accountant because they told me it was more practical. Meanwhile, Anna did whatever she wanted. She dropped out of college to become a yoga instructor, and my parents called her brave. I helped them through their financial struggles while they ignored me. I should have seen the signs earlier, but I kept telling myself family was family. They loved me in their own way. I had spent my whole life trying to gain their approval, even as they praised Anna for her free-spirited lifestyle while dismissing my accomplishments as boring. They made me feel like my work ethic and my quiet dedication weren't enough, like I wasn't enough. And then, that phone call from my mother right after I saw the photos. I tried to hold my voice steady as I confronted her, asking how many other gatherings had been canceled under false pretenses. The silence on the other end was deafening. And then the excuse, "You're always so quiet, Catherine. You make people uncomfortable at gatherings. We thought it would be better to spare you from the awkwardness." That was when I realized the truth. It wasn't just one Christmas. It wasn't a one-time misunderstanding. This was a pattern. They had excluded me, not once, but repeatedly while pretending to love me. They had made me feel like I was the problem, and for so long I had believed it, but no more. I decided to take control, to stop making excuses for them. That night, I opened my laptop and started writing an email to my entire family. My parents, my sister, my aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone who had been at that Christmas dinner. I laid out everything. The lie about the ice storm, the photos from the Christmas gathering, the screenshots of my mom's text confirming it was all fabricated. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The responses came flooding in. My Aunt Marie tried to play it off, saying they forgot to tell me about the change in plans. My cousin Na deleted all the photos and told me I was causing drama. Anna's response was a long, condescending email, blaming me for never making an effort. But it was my parents' reactions that truly showed me who they were. Instead of apologizing, they doubled down. My mother spun stories to our mutual family friends about how I was having a breakdown, while my father threatened to cut me out of his will if I didn't stop airing our dirty laundry. The more I stood my ground, the more they twisted the narrative. They tried to make me the villain, but I was done. I had nothing left to lose. The next week, I met with Rachel, an old family friend who had managed my parents' finances years ago. She slid a manila envelope across the table, and inside I found documents that would change everything. My grandfather had left me a significant inheritance, money I had never known about. My father had been the trustee, and instead of giving me access to the funds when I turned 25, he had transferred everything to Anna. He had robbed me blind while I worked myself to the bone to help them financially. Rachel explained how my parents had used my power of attorney to sell properties that were meant to be divided equally between me and Anna. They had systematically stolen from me for years. I knew exactly what I had to do. Armed with Rachel's documents, I spent the next week building my case. I traced every unauthorized transfer, every fraudulent document, every missing cent. I contacted a lawyer specializing in estate fraud, and together we made a plan. I was going to give them one last chance to make things right. I requested a family meeting, and they eagerly accepted, thinking they could manipulate me back into line. On the day of the meeting, I had everything ready. 3 folders sat on my dining table, one for each of them. Inside each folder was a complete record of their fraud, along with a letter from my lawyer outlining their options. Either they return my inheritance with interest, or I go to the authorities. When they arrived, I slid the folders across the table before anyone could say a word. The color drained from my father's face as he read the documents. Anna began to shake. My mother tried to dismiss it, calling it blackmail, but I didn't back down. I had the truth on my side, and I wasn't going to be intimidated anymore. They left in a panic, and then the family group chat exploded with messages from relatives, all defending them, calling me unreasonable. But I didn't care. I had the truth, and I was going to make sure they faced the consequences. Days later, I filed charges. The police raided their house. My father was arrested at work. Anna's yoga studio was seized. My mother was taken from a charity meeting in handcuffs. The family facade, the perfect image they had built for so long, crumbled in a single day. A year later, I sat in my new home in Denver. My father and mother had taken plea deals, agreeing to pay restitution. Anna's yoga empire had collapsed. They had been exposed for what they were: manipulative, deceitful, and corrupt. I had lost many relatives along the way, but I had gained something far more valuable: my freedom. Rachel visited me one afternoon and handed me an old photo album. Inside were pictures of my grandfather and me. He had always believed in me, and now I could see it clearly. His final gift was the inheritance he left for me. But it was more than just money. It was the courage to stand up for myself and break free from their manipulation. As I sat on my balcony looking out over Lake Michigan, I thought about everything that had happened. The family I had spent my whole life trying to please was gone. But in their place, I had built a new life, a life on my own terms. And sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. I sat back in my chair, reflecting on everything that had led to this moment. The past year had been an emotional roller coaster, filled with betrayal, anger, and a painful sense of loss. But now, as I stared out at the snow falling outside my new apartment, I finally felt like I was in control. When I took a deep breath and let my mind wander, I realized how much I had changed. It wasn't just about the money or the family drama anymore. The real victory had been in reclaiming my sense of self-worth. For years, I had been trying to fit into their world, doing everything I could to earn their approval. But in the end, I had been nothing more than a pawn in their game. It was strange, almost surreal, to think about the past. How they had lied to me, manipulated me, and used me to fund Anna's carefree lifestyle while I struggled to make ends meet. And yet they had always painted me as the problem, the one who was too serious, too focused on work, too distant from the family. But I was never the problem. They were. When I thought back on all the holidays I had spent alone, all the family events I had been excluded from, I realized that my life had been one long string of empty promises. I had convinced myself that if I just tried harder, If I just worked more, maybe I would finally earn my place at the table. But that was a lie, too. They didn't want me at the table. They wanted me to stay in my place, quiet and obedient, while they used my hard work to fund their own fantasies. But not anymore. The day they received the news that their fraudulent activities had been exposed was the day I truly felt free. The shock on their faces when they realized their perfect world was crumbling was the final vindication I needed. They had no idea I had been working behind the scenes, documenting everything, building the case against them. I had given them every chance to make things right, to admit their mistakes. But instead of taking responsibility, they tried to manipulate the situation further. They tried to spin the narrative, painting me as the villain. But I knew better now. I had learned their tricks, and I wasn't going to play by their rules anymore. The next few months were a blur. The media coverage of the scandal was everywhere, and slowly people started to see my family for what they truly were. The relatives who had always enabled their behavior went silent, and the ones who had questioned me started to realize that I wasn't the problem. I wasn't the one who had broken the family. I was the one who had fought for the truth. Rachel was by my side through it all. She had been one of the few people who had believed in me, who had seen the situation for what it truly was. We worked together, building a network of survivors, women who had been victims of my family's deception, and together we were stronger. We fought not just for the money they had stolen, but for the freedom they had taken from us. As I looked back, I realized that the most powerful thing they had ever taken from me wasn't my inheritance. It was my self-belief. But now I had that back. I had finally broken free from their web of lies and manipulation, and I wasn't going to let them hold me back anymore. The phone buzzed on the table beside me. It was a message from Susan, my lawyer. She had been keeping me updated on the case. "We've got him," the message read. "Everything's moving forward. The charges are being finalized." A smile tugged at my lips as I typed a quick reply. Good. It's time to finish what we started. And then I put the phone down, took a deep breath, and stood up. I walked to the window, looked out at the snowy streets below, and felt a sense of peace wash over me. The truth had come out. The lies had been exposed, and I had finally found the strength to live my life on my own terms. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about seeking payback. It's about reclaiming your own power and walking away from the people who tried to keep you small. I had done that, and no matter what came next, I knew I was ready for it, because I was finally free. I stared out of the window, watching the first signs of dawn break across the skyline. The past year had been a whirlwind, filled with moments of betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimately, a hard-earned victory. The snow outside was calm, almost peaceful, but I knew that peace hadn't come easy. It had been bought at a high price. My phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a message from Rachel, the only person who truly understood the depth of what I had been through. "It's over," she said. "The last of the accounts were frozen. They won't be able to hide from this anymore." A sense of satisfaction washed over me, but it was fleeting. I wasn't happy, not in the way I had thought I would be when the truth came to light. Instead, I felt a strange emptiness, a void left by everything I had lost. My family, my parents, Anna, had been the cornerstone of my life for so long. To have them turn their backs on me, to have them betray me so thoroughly, was a wound that would take time to heal. But what hurt the most wasn't the loss of them as family. It was the realization that I had been living in a house of lies, pretending everything was fine when they had been orchestrating my downfall all along. Anna's message still haunted me, the way she tried to paint me as the villain, accusing me of destroying everything. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly at her words. She had always been the perfect daughter, in their eyes, the one they could count on to be the obedient, carefree soul who would never question their authority. Meanwhile, I was the one who worked hard, who gave up my dreams, who kept our family afloat. But none of that had mattered. They had always been too focused on Anna's charm and her free-spirited lifestyle to see me, the real me, the one who had always been there for them, quietly in the background. And yet I was the one who was called selfish. I was the one who had to shoulder the burden of their manipulation. My phone buzzed again, but this time it was a message from my father. It was short, cold. "You've really done it now. You've destroyed us. There's no coming back from this." For a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy, but it quickly faded. This was the man who had stolen from me for years, who had gaslighted me into thinking I was the problem, the one who twisted everything to make me feel inadequate. Now he was blaming me for exposing the truth. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. There was no more room for guilt. They had made their choice, and so had I. The family I once knew no longer existed. The image of the perfect, loving parents was gone, shattered by their own greed and arrogance. But as much as the truth hurt, it also freed me. I didn't need their approval anymore. I didn't need to play the role they had assigned me. I was finally in control of my own life, free from their toxic grip. I thought about the years of emotional abuse, the countless times I had been dismissed, ignored, and belittled. I thought about how I had spent my life trying to fit into their mold, trying to be the daughter they wanted, the sister who was always the responsible one, the one who never asked for anything. It was all so clear now. I had been invisible to them, not because I wasn't good enough, but because they never wanted to see me, and that realization gave me the strength to walk away. I had spent too many years trying to be someone I wasn't, all for the sake of their approval. No more. I had nothing left to prove. The phone buzzed once more, a text from an unknown number. You think you've won, but you haven't seen the last of us. I smiled, an icy calm washing over me. Let them think that. Let them believe they still had control. But they didn't. Not anymore. As I sat there reflecting on everything that had happened, I realized one thing. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about living well. It's about choosing yourself, choosing freedom, and walking away from the people who tried to keep you small. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly free. But the story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. There were still people out there like my parents, people who used manipulation and deceit to get ahead, to make others feel inferior. They were the ones who needed to learn that they could only push people so far before they broke free. If there's one lesson to be learned from this, it's that no matter how much they try to tear you down, no matter how much they lie and manipulate, you have the power to rise above it. You have the strength to rebuild your life, to find your own path, and to thrive on your own terms. To anyone out there who feels trapped in a similar situation, take this as a sign. You don't have to stay in a toxic environment just to keep the peace. You have the power to make the changes you need for your own happiness. It might not be easy, and it might not come without sacrifice, but you are worth it. If my story resonates with you, or if you found yourself standing up to those who've tried to manipulate you, I encourage you to share your own experience. Let's create a community of support where we can lift each other up and hold those accountable who think they can get away with taking advantage of others. The best revenge? It's not getting even. It's thriving and making sure they never forget who you really are.